All right, so I have some exclusive information to share with you today. This is not your run-of-the-mill crackpot Alex Jones, I got the document style information. This is the real deal, someone in the industry that I know personally and who works very, very close with the Department of Defense as well as other very, very high-profile institutions. Now, all I got to say, guys, before I disavow this information is that it's a great time to be a prepper, isn't it? It's a great time to just have that security and that peace of mind, because this is what's going on in the world today. These vacuous NPCs who deride, mock, and ridicule preppers, we will be exonerated someday, mark my words, because this is how it's going across the Middle East. They are burning the likeness of the American leadership, political leadership class, I should say, in effigy. Ceremoniously, that train is never late. It's that time of the month. Apparently, Anthony Blinken is burning in effigy in Iraq once again. What else is new? Not a whole lot. This is where we are going. We got some big news to share with you today. Before I talk about the exclusive information from my inside source that pertains to this building right here. Does anybody know what building this is? 33 Liberty Street. We're going to talk about it in just a moment. This is a scary one. This is something that, it just makes you, because this is where they store the gold, guys. Okay, this is one of the places where they store a lot of the gold. Anyways, we'll get to that. A quick rundown of what we're going to talk about. We have a looming government shutdown, November 17th. Are they going to postpone it once again? We got Sergei Lavrov, based Lavrov, I call him, because I think he's pretty based. You can call me a Trotskyite, apparatchik, Marxist, Bolshevik, I don't care. I think Lavrov's pretty based. He's not Putin. I think he's pretty based. Anyways, we can agree to disagree, but Lavrov is saying that the Western Anglo-Saxons, as the Russians like to call us, are pushing for a big war in the Middle East. You think? I could have told you that. We're going to talk about that and numerous other things. We got Nasrallah, the Hezbollah Secretary General, giving a speech on November 11th. Remembrance Day? Isn't that interesting that he would give a speech on that particular day? We got attacks on American military bases ramping up across the Middle East. Anthony Blinken gets snubbed in Ankara by Erdogan. And it's looking as though we may start to see a fracturing of ties between the Turks and the Americans, and the Turks and NATO, for that matter. Are the Turks going to go to war with Israel? Well, our friend Douglas Magalaga thinks that they are. We also have Hezbollah brandishing anti-ship missiles, threatening to sink all the fleets that currently are sitting around Cyprus. We have UK withdrawing from the embassy in Lebanon. We have North Korea secretly planning another nuclear test. And guess what they did in Ukraine? It appears as though they may have smuggled in long-range weapons, long-range versions of these Scalp and Storm Shadow missiles. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, but this building right here, 33 Liberty Street. If you know anything about numerology, you know that that number 33 just happens to come up a lot when you're around these high-ranking, shadowy institutions like the Federal Reserve. Isn't that strange that that number, that special number, the numerical representation of the word Amen, of the Star of David, the day or the year that Jesus died, yada, 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 the list goes on. 33, there's something about that number. 33 degrees of something around. I can't quite put my finger on. Anyways, you can tell by the bars on the windows, this is a rather secure building. And the reason why is because they have a shitload of gold in there, all right? Now, why am I talking about this building? Well, my friend Steve from Wholesale Freeze Dryers, who makes all the food from the MREs, not just the run-of-the-mill MREs. I'm talking about like the mess hall level MREs, okay? We're talking about the real deal stuff. We're talking about all kinds of stuff that they eat on the nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers, military bases, deep underground, underneath Denver Airport, the whole 9 yards. He sends me this message, and needless to say, it got me thinking, raised my eyebrows just a little bit. I'm going to read this without hopefully disavowing any information which I probably shouldn't disavow, but I have his approval to discuss this and share this with you. You can make of it what you will. The Federal Reserve made a very large purchase order for freeze-dried food. Now, why would the Federal Reserve be buying freeze-dried food? Are they preparing for an emergency situation? It was a big order, and it stuck out like a sore thumb because it was all for U.S. delivery. Most of our orders go to some sort of military transport freight forwarder location on the East Coast, and from there they wind up on military flights and yada, yada, yada. They go to the embassies, the State Department, consulates overseas, yada, yada, yada. I almost never see where the final destination is, he says. This one had a direct shipping address on the PO for final destinations and delivery instructions in New York and New Jersey. Plus, they rushed it to get, won't say that word, to get these orders out ahead of a time of all the orders. Of course, I looked up the addresses and went into the offices of the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, and what looks like some sort of bank clearinghouse in New Jersey. The New Jersey address was an old concrete building with no windows. I think there's a building in New York with no windows. It's some people think it's some kind of like NSA thing. It's the AT&T building, but that's not this. Sorry, ADHD. They screwed up, I think. The PO actually said Federal Reserve Bank on there as the end user for the spec sheets, so no idea why the Federal Reserve would be stocking up, but they got a little bit of everything, and it was all the high-end civilian stuff. They're not technically government-owned. I don't think. No, you're right. They aren't government, technically. That's called the deep state. None of the lower-end items that would go to the troops in the field were on this PO. In other words, there were no hamburgers, mixed vegetables, or beef stew meat for those grunts. No, he didn't write that. I just threw that in there. That's what the elites think, right? It was steaks, filet mignon, salmon fillets, shrimp scallops, something I cannot pronounce, lobster, asparagus, and cheesecake. They were sure planning on eating well, whoever is going to have to tear into that order. Now again, this is freeze-dried food. Okay, this is not like, you know, they ordered this stuff and it's going to like for a catering service. This is freeze-dried apocalypse food. Last 25 years, gets 99% of the moisture sucked out of it. Why the hell is the Federal Reserve stocking up on all this stuff? Is it because they're planning for there to be another lockdown, another emergency, another maybe a terrorist attack or something like that? Or, you know, who knows how deep it goes underneath this building? Because as far as I know, they store a lot of gold in this place. So they say. We don't really know exactly where the gold is stored, all of it anyways, but apparently a sizable amount is stored here. We're talking about the stock exchange. All of these economic institutions stockpiling food, in addition to the fact that the embassies are being fully loaded up for reasons that we now perfectly understand, because those embassies can be cut off in wartime. And this building is no joke. I mean, they got bars. It looks like, oh, okay, I guess they don't have them on every floor, but they have bars on many of the floors. And it's a pretty nice looking building. Like it's, you know, it looks like it was maybe recently renovated or something, but a very mysterious place. Anyways, guys, I wanted to share that with you because I find that very strange. He says the order stuck out like a sore thumb. It was an anomaly of a thing that he hasn't seen before. Obviously, he's seen a massive uptake in orders. And because he's seen an uptake in orders, the government allows him to purchase large amounts at government discounts from various agricultural producers from around the world. So as usual, Steve is incredibly generous and friends with the channel, so he's extending a 20% discount. I think it's on something I personally don't eat, but I think a lot of you guys would eat. This is what the elites eat, man. Like, take a look at this. This is Alaskan king crab, okay? And 20% off. You can do a pre-order. It takes 3 to 5 weeks to ship this stuff. but they got like 300 varieties of things that you can get 20% off, which is huge. I mean, it's unheard of, 20%. And he doesn't raise the prices or anything like that. Steve is just kind of a crazy guy. He's a patriot, man. That's all I can say. He actually cares about his customers. And look at this. I mean, I don't like this. I don't eat no crustaceans. I don't know. It just ain't in my blood here as a flatlander. I can't bring myself to eating these crustaceans, man. But I know you guys down south, you love this stuff. This Alaskan king crab, pre-sale all week, 20% off, and 20% off store-wide for Canadian prepper fans. And I don't know, that news about the Federal Reserve, though, yeah, the link will be in the description if you want to get that stuff. I would encourage people to stock up. It is by far it's the best freeze-dried food in the world. So it's the only place that makes stuff like that. They have their own proprietary process and all the rest. But tell you, man, something big is cooking. Why is the Federal Reserve? What are they preparing for? Some kind of bank shutdown? Some kind of run on this place? Some kind of riots in the streets? Some kind of cyber attack? I mean, who knows? So yesterday, we shared this video with you with Incirlik base in Turkey, where American troops are based out of, and American nuclear weapons are also positioned. I would presume around 20 or so tactical nuclear weapons. Sorry, I'm still a little sick today, guys, but I am feeling a lot better. I've been hopped up on medication here, too, to keep the fever down. I don't know what I have. See, I don't go to the doctor until I can't go to the doctor and it's the apocalypse. I'm the kind of guy who's not going to go to the doctor till the very last minute. I just hate doctors. Nothing against doctors, especially you, Dr. Bones. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I'd rather go with the placebo effect of not being told what's wrong with me, and then just hope I can kill. If I got cancer growing in me, I'll just kill it. That's not medical advice. Don't do that. But I don't know. I don't even test myself for these things. I might have to blow my nose in a bit here. Anyways, so where was I? I was talking about Turkey. So this is a serious situation that Turkey has on its hands. Anthony Blinken, after doing that photo shoot and almost pissing himself in Iraq, flies to Turkey to meet with Erdogan and to meet with their senior leadership, their foreign ministry, blah, 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 to discuss the situation. Because Turkey doesn't like Israel right now. In fact, Turkey has threatened to put troops on the ground in Gaza. If there's anybody that can do it, it's Turkey. They have one of the largest militaries in the world. And Mr. Douglas McGregor, I like saying that word, McGregor, Turkish soldiers will eventually fight in Gaza, he says. Erdogan is sensitive to timing. He is mobilizing the country. This is going to happen. It's a mistake to dismiss him. Erdogan is the one man in the Middle East with the capability to destroy Israel. Pay attention now. Israel has nukes. So I don't know how Erdogan gets around that. I'm not sure if Turkey has the S-400. I think they do have S-400s. So they could potentially stop some of the Israeli nukes, but not all. So this is something to factor in. And then, of course, Turkey would be going up against the American empire and the rest of NATO, because at that time they would be severed from the transatlantic alliance. So that's a problem. Anyways, he goes to Ankara, Blinken, and he isn't that welcome when he gets there. Okay, so he's snubbed by Erdogan, who suddenly announced that he would be absent from the meeting. And the organization's president, Bulim Yildirim, is asking the Turkish government to close the U.S. bases in Incirlik and Kurasik, claiming that they are part of a plan for the U.S. to occupy Turkey. He also has called for a blockade of U.S. bases around the world. I mean, how is it even possible that Turkey is still in NATO when you have people within the government saying things like this? Now, if Turkey, Iran, Russia, and the remnants of Iraq that are aligned with the Iranian-backed militias, and Syria, and Lebanon, and whoever else in the region, Yemen, and, fill in the blank, maybe Egypt, if they all converge on Israel, I mean, it's going to be like a scene out of the Matrix. You remember the last scene in the Matrix Revolutions, where all the guys with the mech suits are saddled up, and the aliens come in, and that you see these movies, they know exactly what they're doing in these movies. This was foreshadowing. Okay, the place is called Zion. All right. And you got like these 20 mechs who are drastically outnumbered. And you got Neo, the one who's the Messiah. And come on, guys. I mean, Hollywood's telling you what's going to happen. Anyways, so the shit could go down. Now, Douglas McGregor, I've thrown some shade at him before, so I don't know if he'll come on the channel, because I was a little skeptical of his takes on Ukraine. I mean, since last March, he's been saying that they're finished. The Ukrainians are finished. They're decimated. They're destroyed. And, Ukraine is still fighting. They're still fighting hard. In fact, they're still pushing back in some places. So, I've often thought that he's been a little overconfident in some of his predictions. But, this is interesting take, because Turkey is a wild card right now. And it could very well go either way. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. We got Hezbollah brandishing what appear to be some anti-ship missiles with auto-opening hydraulic door thingies. How are they going to shoot these anti-ship missiles? I don't know. I don't know how it works. Are they going to be able to hit? Sinking aircraft carriers is no easy task. There's so many layers of defense on these systems that, chances are a lot of these would just be shot down, but, they might get one or two through. Shot down, I mean, obviously they're going underwater. So, you know what I mean. But some of these might be going under. I don't know if they all going underwater, or there's some that are surface to surface. But there's a good chance that a lot of them will be intercepted, I presume, whether they're the torpedoes or the surface-to-surface missiles. So, but Hezbollah, they got nothing to lose, really. I mean, they got 100,000 fighters who are all diehard. They're all trained. They've been fighting this protracted conflict on the northern border with Israel for years. So a lot of their guys are willing to die for the cause, which is not something that can be said for a lot of the more secular political Zionists. And, but there are those diehard people in Israel as well who, really do feel that allegiance to their nation. And then there's the other ones who just leave the country when shit gets wild. But that's not the majority, okay? That's only a small minority of people who decided to bounce. The UK has withdrawn their staff from the embassy. I don't know if they've withdrawn their main diplomat, their ambassador, but they have withdrawn the embassy staff and their families. So that's a pretty extreme development. Now, we're also going to talk about North Korea planning a nuclear test. We're going to show you some maps that signal that they're using this work camp way out in the boonies to build these 20,000 strong concentration camp, if you will, of people who are basically condemned to work themselves to death to build and dig out this place where they can conduct nuclear tests. Then we also got to talk about the long-range missiles in Ukraine. My main man, Lavrov. I know some of you guys are going to be like, this communist, Trotskyite, Marxist son of a bitch. I don't know, something about Lavrov seems based, man. I got to say, Lavrov, he's got a tough job. He's stuck between the West and Vladimir Putin. He's stuck between Biden and Putin. That's a hard-ass job, all right? I can understand why guys like him and Blinken look so despondent, because they just, they just had enough of it. Anyways, he says that there's a big war coming, and that the Anglo-Saxons, as he calls us, are literally pushing the Middle East to the brink of a major war, and it's only a matter of time before this happens. Western politicians are provoking a big war. Now, the big question everybody's asking is, why is the price of oil still low? Well, I think I've figured it out. I think the Saudis are really in on it. They're really in on it because when you think about it, they've cut oil output till the end of the year, okay? So it's signaling that they could raise oil output. And this is probably what is going to happen. This is probably the deal they might have with the Americans, or who knows what sort of deals they have to keep oil at a manageable level. Now, that's if the Americans don't start a war with the Iranians and the Strait of Hormuz doesn't get closed, where 25% of the world's oil traverses through. They could load that thing up with sea mines, and then they got their mini tactical subs. They got their limited but still capable Navy, and they got all their missiles. So you ain't getting any ships through there if that happens. Now, if that's the case, then we're looking at massive spikes in the price of oil, especially considering it will be winter time. But are the Saudis on board in that they're willing to maybe increase output if things get really, really hairy? Okay, if some of that Iraqi and Syrian and Iranian crude gets taken off the market as a result of some sort of conflict. I think that's what time it is. I think that's what's going on, because apparently the Yemenis are pissed. They are pissed at Saudi Arabia. They say, if you continue to block missiles that we are firing at the Zionists, the Yemenis are crazy. I mean, these guys are ride or die. Love them or hate them, you got to admit, these guys got balls. I mean, this is a little country in the middle of, the end of some large peninsula. They're isolated from all of their other allies. Iran's way over here, Hezbollah's way over there. So I'll show you the map here just so you know what I'm talking about. I mean, Yemen's way the hell, they're in, and this is just the Houthis right here. So they're just this little chunk of Yemen. These guys are firing missiles over Saudi Arabia. Now, I'm not condoning it, but I'm just saying, you got to admit that takes balls. These guys, they're like the honey badgers of the global war theater. They just don't give a fuck, all right? Now, anyways, had to drop one F-bomb. I'm dropping an F-bomb per episode as we approach the 0 day. I don't care. Deal with it, Karen. If you continue to block missiles we fire at the Zionists, all your oil production sites, especially Aramco, will be destroyed. It will burn again. When did it burn? I think they lit something up last year, because I remember doing a video on it last year. They were burning up oil fields left and right last year, and I'm sure they've been doing it for a long period of time. This is why the Saudis are wanting those missile defense systems, okay? They're probably putting them in and around the oil fields. So the Yemenis are threatening the Saudis, because the Saudis are clearly, they clearly taken a side here. They're going to give lip service to the plight of the Palestinians. Please don't nuke them, but, you can still engage in the protracted form of genocide. Just don't nuke them, right? So, that they've chosen a side. And, these Yemenis, they just don't care. And it's not all Yemen, right? It's the Houthis, okay? I know somebody's going to try to correct me. Yes, there's civil wars in all these countries, whether it's Iraq, Syria, Yemen, those are the three main ones. But there's civil wars in each place. Even Lebanon is divided between the Lebanese government and the Hezbollah gangsters who are there. So it's weird. I don't know enough about this region to really understand what is motivating the Yemenis and these Iraqi resistance groups. I'm sure there's some deeper underlying motivations that they're willing to die for. It must be serious if they're willing to die for it, if they're willing to draw heat. Or they're just taking orders from Iran. It's possible. So, yeah, and then we got this nuclear sub in the Persian Gulf. Now, apparently this is the one that's armed with the Tomahawk missiles. I don't know if they're nuclear tipped. 144 Tomahawk missiles on each submarine, I believe, or something to that effect. And CENTCOM did advertise that they were moving this sub to the Persian Gulf, which is a little off-brand, because typically the whole point of a submarine, especially a nuclear-powered one, is that it's supposed to be stealthy. You're not supposed to know where it is, okay? It's supposed to be a secret. So the fact that they're making it known is a sign that they're doing this for deterrence purposes. Now, against the Russians or a peer competitor, you would maybe, you would not want them to know where it is. It serves no function for them to know it. It's almost more of a deterrent if they don't know where it is. Whereas if you're fighting a country who doesn't have nuclear weapons, then it is a deterrent, because you're saying, you know, we're going to use this submarine to fire missiles at you. It wouldn't be like, okay, we're posturing with one of our nuclear submarines in the Baltic Sea, say, somewhere, and we're letting the Russians know. Well, all that would do is likely increase the escalation ladder. But in this case, they're probably thinking, well, this might slow the Iranians down. I was talking to a friend, again, who has some good insight into this region, and they think that what they're trying to do right now with Blinken running around like a chicken with his head cut off across the Middle East with his flak jackets and bulletproof vests and all this stuff, that they're trying to buy time so that they can get all their military in position. And they're promising that there's going to be some kind of ceasefire and some peace deal, while all the while they're just slowly moving all the major warships, which is all the tip of the spear, which is going to be setting the groundwork for probably a larger troop deployment down the road. That's what they think is going on. And I would have to agree, because, you know, you can't trust us. We lied through our teeth. We lied to the Russians about the Minsk agreement. That is obvious. That's declassified. We lie to the Afghanis, who say we're not going to leave you behind, and we lied to them. We're probably going to lie to the Ukrainians at some point. We're going to abandon them. We might even abandon the Israelis at some point, but we're pretty invested in that one. So I don't think that one's going to happen. At least that might be the last one to go. But yeah, nobody believes the United States, I don't think. I don't think any of these countries are going to fall for it. So they are all preparing for war. They're all preparing for full-blown war with the USA. I guarantee you they got contingency plans right now to take out every single one of these warships. I'm not saying they're going to be able to do it. They certainly don't have the capability to go against a nuclear superpower and the Samson option of the Israelis. But man, all I can say is that it's only a matter of time before shit gets wild. Lebanon, we got rockets launched in both directions. Israel today, I think I talked about this yesterday, but they're the first, well, with the help, when they say Israel, they really mean, you know, a lot of this is the United States helping out and providing funding and resources and all the rest. But they were the first to shoot down a missile in space. So this is an interesting infographic here. So the crazy Houthis fire a missile, and ballistic missile, and the Israelis intercept it in space. Now, I don't know how fast this missile is going. I don't know how akin it would be to, say, an ICBM. But that's quite the feat, because this, of course, is a testament to their ability to defend against potential nuclear warheads that would be mounted on something like this. So their aero system was able to intercept this, I presume, somewhere over Saudi Arabia. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. The arms race continues. South Africa has recalled its ambassador from Israel. They said, we don't want to have any part in this. We're choosing a side. So they've went all in on the BRICS. And South Africa has conducted naval exercises with the Russians. So South Africa has pretty much abandoned the West. As I said, the UK has withdrawn their staff from the embassy in Lebanon. We have Jordan warning of a declaration of war. And this is where things get really weird with Egypt and Jordan, okay? The country of Jordan has again warned Israeli that the displacement of Palestinians equals a declaration of war. So as much as these countries are trying to align themselves with the Americans, like Egypt, who gets all its military equipment, or most of it, from the Americans, and the Jordanians, who are asking for missile defense, they're allowing the United States to utilize their airways, their airstrips, to launch their fighter jets. They're also the ones who ultimately get burdened with this massive outflow of refugees from the West Bank and from the Gaza Strip. You're talking about adding 2.5 million people that are eventually going to have to be incorporated somewhere, right? They're going to have to go down into Egypt. And then you got the people in the West Bank who number, I think, 4 or 5 million. Okay, where are they going to go when they start being forced out? Well, they're going to go into Jordan. Jordan already has a majority Palestinian diaspora population. So, they're already straying. I even think some of their royalty is of Palestinian descent. So people might just say, well, they just got to take him in. But then, that story goes way back and way back. I mean, it is an occupation for all intents and purposes. I think, quite frankly, it's a silly situation that the world is about to go to war over a narrow strip of land that only contains 10 million people on the basis of some biblical idea. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. I know people have strong opinions about it. I just think it's kind of strange that we got millions of people around the world. Not strange that they're protesting, because nobody likes seeing kids with their heads blown off and that sort of thing. I mean, I hate looking at that kind of stuff, all right? It makes me sick to my stomach to see what's going on there. But it's just strange that this one little place in the world can create so much unrest all around the world. Nobody's thinking about the fact that there's only 10 million people that live there in this entire region that's being fought over. And there's over 8 billion people in the world right now, okay? So do the math on that. Anyways, what else do we got? The Islamic resistance in Iraq has now claimed responsibility for at least 6 rocket and drone attacks on U.S. bases in Western Iraq and Syria within the last 24 hours. I believe I have a map, which is a cluster frig of information. Way too much, way too busy. But you can see there's been attacks all over at the numerous American military bases. And it's only a matter of time before the U.S. strikes back. They're just waiting for the empire to strike back. The Islamic Resistance Group today launched its first tactical ballistic missiles at U.S. military bases. They cause much more powerful explosions than what was previously launched against U.S. troops. And we can likely count on the U.S. to strike back. Now, moving on to the Eastern Theater. North Korea is getting a little starved for attention. So, what are they doing? Let me just move this over here so I'm not confusing anybody, because I like to be precise. So we're just going to move this up to here. North Korea, a nuclear nation. And so this is what's going on in North Korea. Now, North Korea was doing nuclear testing up until 2017. Then you had the Trump visit in 2018. Everybody thought, hey, things are good now, right? Wrong. In fact, after that Trump visit, the amount of ballistic missile tests the North Koreans did intensified immensely. In fact, they broke a record that next year. So much for that. Okay, Dennis Rodman couldn't fix it. Donald Trump couldn't fix it. He smoothed it over for a while, but unfortunately, it's still a problem. The biggest story of all we got to get to, and that's the long-range missiles in Ukraine. But this is important. So apparently, they're concerned that the trails to one of their former nuclear test sites, you probably cannot see it on here, but just know that there's people in big places, smart people, smart journalists, who've crunched the numbers on this one, okay? It was thought that North Korea destroyed its nuclear testing site in 2017. However, new satellite imagery appears to show now it's back and could have been built using forced labor from a nearby labor camp. That is this place right here. Look at the size of this place. 20,000 people are worked to their deaths here. What was their crime? Who knows? Speaking out against the great leader, most likely, or, I don't know, littering, who knows. Anyways, the site called Pungji Rai was last used in 2017, but was blown up as a part of the leader's attempts to prove he was not a war-mad despot. You can tell this is a very pro-Western, tabloidal type news source, but it's still legit. It's been published on many news sources. They've speculated that prisoners may have been put to work digging out the tunnels where the regime detonates its nukes. Because I guess they want to do these underground. You do these nuke tests underground because it's easier to contain the radiation and the fallout, and you don't have people complaining. And North Korea is not a big country, okay? So they don't, it's not like they have a lot of, I mean, China doesn't want that blowback. Russia doesn't want that. Japan doesn't want that. Not that they care about what Japan thinks. South Korea doesn't want that. But it's something they have to factor in. So, anyways, yeah, it's suspected that they're getting ready to do the test. And the place where they do these tests is right up here, okay, in Hwasong. This is where the testing is actually going to take place. And it's in these mountains, and they note that there's these trails that lead to these tunnels that were blown up back in 2017. So if North Korea does conduct another nuclear test, especially right now, okay, especially in the current climate, that could create a massive panic around the world. And it most definitely will lead to some limited escalation. Right now, there is no cross-border skirmishes between North Korea and South Korea. They're still at that level of sanctions. They're still at that level of military maneuver. We talked about the escalation ladder yesterday. I would say that they are at the level of military maneuvers, but no engagement. Some people think if they started down this road with limited tactical actions, it would quickly descend into widespread combat operations. So thankfully, we're still at military maneuvers, but there's a lot of military maneuvers between the U.S. and their fleets. Speaking of which, this is a great breakdown of what's going on in the South China Sea. So you can see, let's just zoom in here a bit for you, okay? So anything in red is the Red Menace. Anything in blue is us. So you could see the Chinese are starting to position their fleets around Taiwan, clearly trying to position it. Now the U.S. is trying to keep itself hovering in the periphery just in case the Chinese attempt to initiate a blockade. Now, these distances are so vast that, it looks like it's just a small space, but I mean, this is like the size of Texas, probably, the distance from there to there. So these are no small spaces, all right? So it would take a lot of naval power for the Chinese to actually enforce some kind of blockade, but you can see all the pieces moving in to position. So what do we got here? So we got the Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group, and that one is number 7, okay? We have the Carl Vinson Strike Group, that is number 8, okay? We have, what do we got here for the Chinese? We got the Shandong Carrier Strike Group, that is number 1. Okay, so we got strike groups going up against strike groups here. This would be a massive sea battle if this actually took place. Then we have 6 warships right here in number 2. And what is number 3? 178 PLA aircraft detected around. Okay, so number 3 is just to indicate the air defense violations that have been numerous since this is just in the month of October. Okay, so you were seeing more and more of these. We're seeing more close brush-ins with the NATO AUKUS alliance and the Chinese. So it's only a matter of time before things kick off there. I do think they're waiting for things to go south in the Middle East before they heat it up. And we also have North Korea doing a possible satellite launch attempt on November 18th with the help of the Russians. Now, my buddy Shadows over at Twitter pointed out that today he's seen a Russian military plane fly into North Korea. So we're not sure if they were dropping off or they were picking up, but something's definitely going on. And then we got the Tokyo missile drill. Let's see if I got a picture of this one. This one was kind of funny to me because I don't have a picture of it. But anyways, a whopping total of 60 of Tokyo's 34 million strong population partook in the first missile evacuation drill amid the growing threat from North Korea. Well, it's a start, right? It's a start. Japan conducted its first missile evacuation drill in the capital city, Tokyo, amid growing threats from nearby North Korea. I think Ron from Atlas Survival was saying it was Singapore, where they have a bomb shelter in every building. But I'm not sure the same thing holds for Japan, although I'm sure a lot of their structures are hardened for earthquake. I don't know how well that would help them in a war situation, but it might. Okay, so long-range Scalp missiles sent to Ukraine. Now, here's the problem. What's going on? So apparently, a Russian warship caught on video hit 3 times with Scalp missiles. Apparently, they used to manufacture the Scalp missiles. Most people know that it can travel about 250 kilometers, all right? This is a missile fired from the Ukrainian planes and modified, retrofitted so that they can carry these missiles. But apparently, they had about 800 of the old stock, but these ones actually had a longer range, okay? So they're suspecting that because there are very few places, they don't think that they can be targeting Sevastopol in the way they are using the standard Scalp missiles. At least that's the argument, that it's too far, okay? So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that you got S-400. Let me just try to paint a picture for you here. So you got S-400 systems in Donetsk, probably. You got them in Crimea. You got them in Rostov-on-Don. You probably got them in, like, you know, places like Melitopol. So that means that any plane that's up here can potentially be shot down, right? So that means that the range, let me see if I can get my line tool here. Let's see the line tool. Where's the line tool? There it is. So let's just go Kerch Bridge, all right? So Kerch Bridge. So we're already, just to Enogadar, we're at 250 kilometers. Not sure if you guys can see that on the screen, but that's a 250 kilometer distance. So we had a triple hit in and around this region, I believe, is where this took place. Yeah, triple hit. So the question is, you know, if Russia has missile defense S-400 with a massive range that extends like way out to here, then how are they able to shoot these things? Now, yeah, they can fly low, but then does that affect the range of the missile, right? Because you launch it from higher, I presume that, you know, it has longer to kind of coast down to its target. I could be wrong about that. But anyways, so they're suspecting that they've been provided now with these longer range systems. That's how they're able to target these places that are more strategic for the Russians. Now, this is a big escalation because, of course, now this almost negates having or obviates the Taurus missile system, which everybody's been hoping for in Ukraine to get from Germany, because that has a 500 kilometer range as well. Well, if you already have this, then you've already, you know, pretty much taken it to that level. And this is how they kind of time release this escalation. This is that managed escalation, so things don't go nuclear right away. But it's worth noting that this is a major escalation. The Russians have been taking some big blows lately, in spite of the fact that they might be making some gradual grinding progress in the Adivka region. Let me see if I can find it. I'm not going to be able to find it. I'm not that good with my geography. It's somewhere around here. Anyways, that's what's going on there. Ryberg does a really good breakdown. Ryberg, you got to hand it to him. You know, Russian propaganda or not, they got some great animations about what's going on. Russia has completed their withdrawal from the Conventional Armed Forces Treaty in Europe. This was conventional, so it wasn't ado with nuclear forces. But basically what it did is it limited the amount of military that any side could have positioned close to the borders of either NATO countries or the SISTO countries or the Warsaw Pact countries when this thing was actually created. And now that's all gone. So that means that you're going to see more and more military buildups, likely closer to the border in the Baltic states. You're going to see NATO sending their 300,000 troops to the Baltic states soon. And it's all going to be downhill from there. U.S. debt is insane. U.S. debt is now $33.7 trillion, up more than $500 billion this year. Wrong. Last month. That is insane. That means that after 2031, the funding for literally everything in the government, from the U.S. military to the light bill at the White House, will have to be funded by more debt, because entitlements by that time will take 100% of the tax revenue. Even the national debt will become so large that simply paying interest each year will consume more than 100% of the tax revenue. That's called hyperinflation, folks. Global gold reserves. This year, global gold reserves reached an all-time high. Based on the results of 3 quarters of 2023, net purchases of gold by central banks amounted to exactly 800 tons. That's a lot, considering that, you know, the amount of gold out there is measured in the thousands of tons, right? So the fact that that was stockpiled just this year alone says a lot. Between 2022 and 2023, the total gold reserves of central banks will have increased by more than 2,000 tons. What are they preparing for, guys? Is that why the Federal Reserve is getting ready to eat their freeze-dried food while camped out with their shotguns and their gold bars as they mow down the zombie hordes who try to get their money back out of the banks? I don't know. You tell me. That's pretty much what I got for you guys today. I tell you, it's nice to be over this, or getting over this cold. Or at least, you know, I think I'm definitely over the hump, because, man, it's been a real brain drain. It's been brain fog. It's been very difficult to make these videos. I know I sometimes make it look easy, but I tell you, and I know I don't. I got a lot of work to do, but I appreciate it, guys. Go get some, capitalize on that deal. Freeze-dried wholesale foods. They got everything, man, from like frickin' chicken breakfast sausages, chicken nuggets, black beans, like anything you can imagine, these guys have, okay? We're going to have some Black Friday specials as well. I'm going to pass the deals that we get from our distributors on to you guys before the next Black Swan event hits. And to be brutally honest, I keep saying this all the time, but I always got to say this, because there's some people who think that my store is the reason why I do this channel. The store is just kind of like an afterthought. I don't really make money on the store, to be honest. I'm sure I make a little bit of money, but it's really just keeps people employed here. It keeps people working. I pay people good wages. You can ask any of the people who I employ. They make well above average wages. So it's really mostly a burden, but it's my way of giving back to the community, making sure that you guys get good quality gear. We don't always have the best prices. We can't always compete with the Amazons and the Jeff Bezos. We do our best to do that. But it's just one of those things that, you know, someday I might just stop doing, because it's, you know, it honestly, it's more, I don't want to say it's more stress than it's worth. It's cool to, and it's also strategic in a way. So, you know, if the shit ever hit the fan, I could be raided by the SWAT teams and the governments and all that good stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, it'd be good to, my thinking was always, okay, shit hits the fan. You know, I have this massive supply of stuff that I've been cycling out, and it's strategic in that way. But at the same time, it's kind of a pain. But, you know, I guarantee you everything we have at CanadianPreparedness.com is high quality stuff vetted by gear reviewers here on YouTube, friends of the channel. So go check it out. That's the best way to support the channel. But honestly, the best way to support it is just like, comment, subscribe, keep on watching. Thanks, guys. Take care. And let me know what you hear. Media at CanadianPreparedness.com if you got any of that secret intel that we like. Thanks.